Okay, can you hear us now? Let us know, because this is going fantastic.
All right. So we're going to wait and see if that made an impact, if anyone can hear us. If you can't hear us, let us know that too, I guess. Okay, perfect. Okay,
Perfect.
Jake,
Thanks,
thank
Jay.
you. Now we can move on. So
Jiminy Christmas.
we're gonna okay, one of the
rewind.
things I don't know is when we go and we like produce this, and right now we're live, and so you were able to see all that with us. I don't know if people are going to hear all that beginning or not. So we're going to do the 2-second version to not bore the people who heard this, and we're going to catch everyone up who didn't hear this. So we said welcome. We introduced ourselves, all those things that you guys know, and then we talked about how it's been a long time since we've been here and yada yada. And we are going to start right back where we left you guys off in August. So we did a whole bunch of traveling around.
Yes, all the swearing.
And so we ended up where we were back to fishing, back on the water, what we always call family vacation. So Josh's family has always taken this yearly, week-long trip. And so last year was on Osakis, and this past year, I guess 2 years ago was on Osakis, and then this last year it was as well. And it's kind of an evolving thing, so we'll see what happens with next year. But this most recent year, we were laughing when we were on this trip because, of course, we have a whole week to dedicate to fishing. And you know what happened is we had a cold front, we had a bug hatch, 2 different bug hatches on each side of the lake. It was really strange how that happened, not all at once. We had the weather was a factor, whether it was rain, whether it was dead calm, whether it was super windy. It was just super unpredictable. There was no consistency in any of that. And I think the fish really truly thought it was fall because the patterns that we had expected were not the patterns that we were seeing. And so one of the things that we were talking about is that sometimes when you go to a body of water, you have an idea of how you want to fish, what you're going to do, what you're going to catch, all these different things. And sometimes what you have to do is just actually play the situation or something, like fish where the fish are, or something stupid like that. Because that's what we found, on Osakis. I guess I'm hoping I'm not giving away anyone's secret spot, right? But if you go out into the big part of the lake, there's some like little sunken islands and stuff and this and that. And if you are in the right place at the right time, there's some really good bluegill fishing out there. And I think not everybody realizes that. And that's great. And that's why it exists there. Right. But like they'll find it. But we had all these thoughts because the year before we did really well out on some of these little humps and stuff. And so we were really looking forward to that. And we had all these baits in mind of what we were going to use. And we got out there, and that's not even where the fish were.
No.
Or maybe a few, but it was so windy. It was so windy.
I don't think it was as windy as the last time we were out there. And I guess for me, maybe it felt like some fall fishing for you, but for me, I just felt like every single day was a different bite, right? Like we didn't have anything where we could go out and figure out what was going on and then continuously do that throughout the week. We had to adjust. There was a lot of different techniques tried, and some failed and some didn't, and there was no consistency. I think that was my biggest challenge over the week. And it was really weird because with panfish, as panfish anglers, you have a tendency to catch a lot of fish all at once and then maybe go through big droughts, right? Because they're a schooling fish. So just picking them off here and there, and then sometimes they're on, sometimes they're not.
Whose boat are you in? That's not how we fish. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I just had to say it. But you're right that there was no consistency in the bite. And one of the reasons that was important on vacation is because, we were with a whole bunch of people who are experienced fishermen and they're great at what they do, but we were with a whole bunch of people who aren't. And that is okay, right? But when you have other boats that are going out and you're like, hey, why don't you try, what worked yesterday? Because that's the most up-to-date information you have is yesterday. I mean, that's pretty recent. And so they go and they do that and they do that and they do that and it doesn't work. And then we're like, oh no, we were onto this whole new thing. And it's like, drat, And so for us, I mean, I think that's part of the puzzle and part of honestly what we like about fishing. But I think for other people, that's where the struggle comes in, is because you get in that mindset of what should be working, what bait color you should be using, what bait style you should be using. And I guess that's one of the funny things. I don't mean to fast forward too far, but in the recent past, our fishing, I found myself kind of downsizing baits and going into fall. Normally, you're doing the opposite. You're upsizing. There's big minnows. There's good forage. Things are swimming around. I've been doing a little bit of the opposite lately.
I think we've had some different weather patterns. I think some of that early cold was kind of crazy. Especially in some of the shallower lakes that we fish, you see like kind of like mini turnover or something, like not a complete like fall turnover yet, but just you get a lot of stuff floating up from the bottom where the edges cool down really fast and it pops stuff up and then it gets blown all over the place. And yeah, it's just been kind of weird. And so I'm interested this weekend. We're doing a little bit of traveling, not super far, but it's been super consistent weather this last week. It's supposed to be consistent into next week, and so I'm curious to see if that's going to change, like how the fish are patterning. Like, are we going to get right back into the summer? Like they're going to be where they're supposed to be. You just go out there, catch some fish, or is it going to be a lot of hunting again? So I'm curious to see if that's going to be the case.
Well, and the other thing is we're going to a body of water that we haven't been keeping up with. I think a lot of these places we do a lot of hopping around on the weekends, and so even if we're not at a place every weekend, we kind of have our finger on the pulse, or whatever the term is supposed to be there, right? But I think we're going to somewhere that's totally new for us, and I think we have a few people who have been there a little bit recently. But I think forging new waters, it's fine. I'm not worried at all, right? In fall, one of the things is in fall, you can really use your graphs. That's why I say I'm not worried, because what's going to happen is in spring, all the fish are so shallow. Like I love having graphs and all that, but like you're not using graphs for spring fishing. Like I just got to be real. Summer fishing, I mean, maybe you are cribs or this or that, or depending on what's happening in the summer, but it's a lot of the weed lines, the weed edges, especially for panfish, sometimes for walleyes, definitely for bass. Yeah, what am I saying? They're all up in that weed edge, right? That's what summer is. And so you can use graphs to find those weeds and all that. But I would say summer, I don't know, fall is that time where you are looking for those schooling fish. They are coming together. They're hanging out in those open areas, maybe on top of thermoclines. Maybe a turnover happened. Maybe they're mixed up. What does that look like? Because those are all things that affect the fishing.
Mm-hmm.
But we have our graphs and it's fall, so I'm not worried.
Yeah, so we had a couple good points brought up here. So Eric brought up just a little bit ago, the Gulp Alive has been working, and especially anything red. And we've been using red quite a bit too. So that's kind of interesting that down by you, Eric, you're towards the central southern part of the state, in Wisconsin. So like, it's amazing that you're having similar success to us, different bodies of water, but similar colors. So that's kind of a weird thing. I don't know. I've used red a lot in the past, right? I have a lot of red baits, just not normally in the fall, right? Usually I'm using like 3-inch paddle tails or 3-inch like fluke minnows, and still catching bluegills on it, right? Because they're just wanting to eat everything. And lately it's been a little bit slow for us. Robert has another good point. Robert, I think you're still in Iowa down there. That 20 to 8 feet, same thing up here. We're finding stuff in that mid depth, and that the fish for us are, I think, I don't know if it's for you. I don't know if it's a water clarity issue. For us, I think it is. The water clarity is fairly good, but it's a darker stained water. But those fish are sitting like right at the light line and right at the thermocline. So for us, that can be anywhere between like 10, 15 feet. And those fish are suspended out there, and fish that are just below it tend to eat a little bit more. Just above it are just kind of hanging out in their comfy water. And yeah, it's been kind of crazy.
Okay, so many shout outs for gulp minnows.
Yeah.
And this is funny because I don't ever try to rip on baits or anything, and that's not what I'm doing. But that's one of those baits, you guys, that when I go to the store and I look at it and I'm like, does that have action? Like it's like an interesting size. It's like not big and it's not small. And it's like, it looks like such a boring plastic to me. So again, I'm not ripping on it, and I'm only pointing it out because so many people seem to be having success on it that I'm sitting here laughing and I'm like, what am I missing out on? So anyways, probably nothing because I have a million other plastics, and that's the thing is you just get to rotate through them and something will work.
Well, and one thing I really want to bring up, and we can always come back to this in full scale if you guys are interested in hearing more about it, because this is my second favorite tactic now. Like I've been using it for a couple years and I'm getting really good at it. And I think I'm going to get Emily on it this fall.
Oh no.
But Core Tackle makes a specific jig for hover rigs, and hover rigging has been like my ultimate favorite thing. It's stupid easy. Like you just cast it out there and you can let it hit the bottom, but basically like they have.
Do you have a hover rig around here?
No, I can. So I can pull up the website, but so it just is internal lead. So you basically put the hook on inside of the bait, kind of like a tube bait.
Pull it up, and then they'll see it.
Okay, well then you're talking. I can't talk without my hands, and I'm typing.
I tease Josh all the time about how he talks with his hands. That's why he's pointing that out. Okay, but when we talk about this Core Tackle, and we talk about the hover rig, I guess is what we're doing. It has a very specific shape to it, and so Josh is going to pull this up in 1 second. That's the first thing that you're going to notice is that it doesn't necessarily look like your typical jig, although you can do a lot of the similar things. So what you're noticing is that little eyelet that you tie onto. Can you hover over that one more time? See how it almost feels like offset? I don't know. If this was a round head jig, I don't know, it's different. So what's going to happen though is it positions the weight differently. And so that entire head, even that pointy little front, fits inside of your bait. And in my opinion, when I saw this, I'm like, how is that going to happen? Your bait is just going to rip up. It's not. It doesn't. It's not so bad. Whatever. No, because what I'm saying is I'm supporting this. It's like this is a great jig because what happens with the weight distribution, with where the eyelet is, it lines up in a way, and especially on the minnow bait that it was showing, is it allows your bait to swim. So with the difference, when you have a regular old gumball jig head and you toss your bait out there and it goes like straight down to the bottom, woo, and then you like jig up or reel in and it comes up and then it goes down and then it comes up and then it goes down. And that's because of the weight of the jig head is all the way in the front and it pushes it to lead with its head. With this Core Tackle, it's going to push that weight a little bit more towards the center. And so it does this glide thing and it doesn't seem like it would make that big of a difference, but it does. And so here's why Josh is bringing it up now is because as these crappies were coming towards fall, they're coming out into this deeper water. Sometimes they're individuals, sometimes they're schooled up. But what's going to happen is that if you cast your gumball jig at them, you either need a small enough jig to fall slow enough. Jay is saying a hair jig. Maybe that's a great option there, right? But when you have the Core Tackle and it does this glide past them, they have more time to see it and eat it. And so that slower fall, still allowing a big profile though, is something that has been very effective for you. And the reason that I'm not switching over full throttle is because honestly, I don't have any of these jigs. You have them all.
I do. I have every single one of them. No, but so this is something like we don't get anything from these guys. Like we just been.
No, it just actually works when you fish it.
Yeah. Matt Steffen brought this to our attention. We started using it. They started making them in 32nd ounce, 16th ounce with a number 4 hook. So they always had a 32nd ounce and a 16th ounce, but it had either a number 1 or a 1/0, and now they have a number 4 hook. So going back to these pictures, that's going to be this one, and then the 16th looks like that. All right. So here's the deal. So these things are super sweet.
It's getting serious. Here's the deal.
So these things are super sweet because it really eliminates the choice of making a jig head color choice, right? Because especially with some of the hard fishing that we've been dealing with is that we've noticed that even switching up our jig head color will trigger more bites. And a lot of times we haven't run into that, and especially fall is like usually by fall, like all my jig heads like are worn off or they're bent up or whatever. And like now I'm having to switch colors on a regular basis. This eliminates that because your lead is inside of your bait. So you just have to choose your bait color. And the really cool part is that like a 16th ounce drops about a foot per second by itself. It's a little bit slower with the plastic on it. And a 32nd ounce just like sits out there. Like it'll sit out there forever. And you can just cast it out. And as long as you know generally like there's a school around or something, you just fan cast and you just like pop it back to the boat. You can let it sit and do long pops and like it'll just like scoot out to the side. You can do all kinds of stuff. Yeah, Jay's saying put it under a float. Like that's another one that I really like. And now that they have these number 4s and I've gotten a good deal of practice with it, with these smaller, I'm bringing it over to ice this year for real. Like last year I tried and I didn't have baits that were small enough for the 1/0 hooks or the number 1 hooks. Now I can put like 2-inch baits down and still fish crappies and some bluegills effectively on some of the days in winter. So I'm pretty excited to try this. I was planning on trying a little bit for walleye this spring and I never got to it because honestly I forgot where I put them, but I found them. So I've been using them all summer and it's pretty sweet. So something to take a look at.
What else?
What else? So, other than that, we have been
I put you on the spot because I expected you to say more about the hover rig. You were on such a roll. I was.
You know what? Sometimes I ramble, and then she wants me to stop rambling, and then sometimes I ramble, and then she's like, "Hey, how about you keep talking?" I never know. I never know.
No,
But okay, so the next thing I kind of want to dive into is for at the beginning of this year, we started with some of the live imaging stuff, and I know some of that's been kind of a crazy topic while we've been off air, I guess. Some with the tournaments and stuff, but I've never really used it past except for this summer. So it's been really cool to learn the baits and see what baits do. We've gotten really good at just like using it in conjunction with a camera and just seeing like being able to use the camera and see in live time like what fish look like on the screen versus like an actual camera. Same thing with their moods, like being able to see what a fish mood and reaction looks like on the camera versus the live scope. Just learning some new technology to us has been a really fun thing this summer. Look at your face. What are you thinking?
I was just listening to what you were saying. Okay, you were making a point though about watching how fish reacted, and that is one thing that we have actually done over the summer, I guess, is watching how the fish are reacting. So when we're talking in this episode, especially about how like, oh man, the jig head color made a difference, and it's like in the past, I'm always somebody who balks at that. I'm like, no way, like the jig head is like this big, and like you're using a plastic, like a 2-inch bait, like, are you kidding me? And it's like, I'm using a root beer float brown jig head. Like, are you kidding me? You're telling me that's what's preventing the fish from biting? And so what happens is because we're 2 people in the boat, and so we always 98% of the time have different baits on. There's that point where there's only one thing working, right? And I think that's the point that we're getting to, is these instances, they're few and far between and they happen. So when we're using these different baits and we can narrow down to what is working. And the funniest thing, it's not funny at the moment, but right now it is. The funniest thing happens is that, let's say we found whatever bait is working. And for one of us, let's say Josh, it'll be working. He'll be catching fish after fish after fish. And then I go and I cast in and I cannot catch a fish. I'm using the same bait in the same way, the same presentation, or float set to the same depth, or whatever it is, who even knows. And one of them is not working. And so one of the things that we notice is that when you use something like a live imaging type sonar, you're able to see the nuances in how the fish are reacting. And so, for example, when Josh has the plastic and jig head color, or if you're using just the hover rig and it's just the plastic color and that's what's working, and then I notice that fish are coming up, they're looking at my bait, maybe even pausing for a minute or maybe not, but going the other way before they bite, when you can see the difference in the reaction from those fish is how you really start to narrow down and find what's working. And so that's, I think, something that's been really important for us, is because in the past we've always balked it. Oh, I'll figure out what works and what not, and so sometimes though it does come down to fish being that picky. And so to like tease that apart has been really helpful. I guess for me, you were joking about your tackle box, and like at the end of the season, you're like, oh, I'm down to whatever jigs are front up and stuff. And it's like, it's not that we use low quality jigs. It's not, that the powder paint isn't good. It's not any of those things. It's that you beat those jigs up so much and you only have, I don't know, because we can make jigs, honestly, sometimes we'll go and we'll make like a handful of a few colors and we'll go out there, but this will be fine. Sometimes I'll go on a big spree and I'll like make all the colors and pack it up. But that's exactly what we're learning to do, is to have those different options in there. And I guess I'm listening to myself say this, and I think that's a little bit annoying, because as your average angler, it's like, you're telling me I need every single color jig head and every single color and it's like, how do you even all store that all, much less bring it or get it to your boat, right? And so, be smart. And that's one of those things. This is why we're here talking about what we do, is like, know your lakes. If your bodies of water are by and large like clear, do they want those natural colors? Do they like those super soft baby blue colors? I don't know. Or do they want those really vibrant ones? And so what we can do is we can share our experience. But like I said, I think the graph has helped us learn the nuances in what's working in these lakes.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to piggyback on that by saying nothing can replace time on the water, right? And like, we're going to be the first ones to tell anybody, like, it's an unreal expectation to spend every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, on the water for 12 hours a day. Like Emily and I do. We're just like crazy fishing people. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So the time, if we make it sound like it's easy, it's just a lot of time. Right. And the time goes by really fast because we're enjoying ourselves, but it's still time. Like, my grass is like 6 inches long, and the dog is, we got an umbrella. So there's sacrifices made. But the thing is like Emily said, learning your water will outfish any electronic out there. And that's just because you've already narrowed that stuff down over time. You don't need the electronics to tell you. Now, electronics will speed up what you do have narrowed down already. So then it's like super speed. Like, you have the super pass and you're going through Disneyland. You don't have to wait in lines. The other guys, they'll still whatever. I've never been there. Nobody takes me anywhere. I take Emily all over the place in the boat. I never get to go.
That's not true. We took you to Mexico last year.
That's true. I still didn't have a super pass.
Whatever.
Yeah. So that being said, I really do think learning the lake is should be first, or river, or whatever bodies of water that you fish. Learn, put your time in, and then if you want to start dialing it down, then start looking at some of the electronics, but definitely not necessary to be successful. We have plenty of friends that are avid bank fishermen that outfish us all the time. So I don't know. They're crazy people, those short people.
One of the other things that I'm thinking about, I guess this is a little bit off topic, but we had, while we were on vacation, because the boat was in the water for the week, we park at, I was going to say the ramp, the dock. There you go. That's
Yeah.
probably the right word. Normally we pull out, put in every time, we trailer. But that's the thing is our trailer was needing some maintenance. And we had that time while the boat was in the water, to replace a bunk that we didn't know was rotted out. And it was funny because actually, I'll be honest with you, if you followed that post, the carpeting that we put on those bunks is already starting to wear away somehow. So I think we're actually going to look into options that are beyond carpeting. So I think that there's a bunch of material called like Gatorback, and I think even we did a video with them one time. So I'm going to have to go back and honestly rewatch our video and find out some of that information because I remember loving it, but not needing it yet at that point. So we are now at that point. But why I'm bringing this up is because this is the time of year when a lot of people are starting to think about storing their boats. And so what you're seeing is a lot of things hitting marketplace. And so, for example, like us, honestly, we're looking kind of at replacing our trolling motor. So I don't want to set everybody out to go and shop for trolling motors now just because we are right. But, as these things are hitting the market because people don't want to store them, if you have things on your boat that you're looking to replace, what did and did not work this year in open water season? This is a perfect time to reflect, because especially while we still have nice weather, this is a great time to be doing some of that maintenance. With that being said, if you are that kind of person who've already pulled your boat, that's great and that's fine. And I hope that you're going to enjoy hunting or something like that. But if you have not pulled your boat, good news. Everybody else is pulling their boat. And this is the time of the year when I think so many of these great bites are happening. And so when we talk about get to know your body of water, whatever's local, whatever you're hitting, this is the time of the year to be doing that because fish are out, they're active, they are on the chew. And so like we said, if you have a graph, if you can find them, if you're just casting around, like whatever that is, we have honestly found a lot of great water in the fall that we've returned to other times of the year. I don't know why does fall fishing, why is that the time of the year look for them?
I mean, it's just, up here in northern part of the country, fish just can feel the water getting colder and it makes them, it's that same feeling that the rest of us get, right? Like the air starts getting colder and then you start thinking, oh, I should probably clean out the garage so I can put my car in it. Or
if fish are cleaning out my
to...
garage, I want to be a part of that.
What?
That's what you said.
No, I said it's the same feeling that we get. Like, right? So it's like, so they're eating. So that feeling like pushes them to eat like more aggressively. It's kind of like that anxious feeling that we get. It's that
like they love ice
seasonality disorder. Like you have to get stuff done. You have to get stuff prepared because winter's coming. I don't want to be dragging stuff out of my garage and putting it into a shed when there's snow on the ground. I want to do it before then. And so this is the same thing with fish. They want to get all of that feeding done while they can before they slow down for the winter. And so they're also this time of year they're putting on, they're like eggs are developing and stuff like that. And they need extra protein for that. And so there's all these things happening this time of year. Plus, for the panfish anglers, like the fish are moving out deeper because they're following schools of minnows that are pushing out. Weeds are falling down, so minnows need the open space to be safe, and that's where everybody kind of follows them all around. Some weeds stay up, and that's where you can kind of get some nice evening and morning bites. But during the fall, look into the basins.
Well, and keep track of those weeds though, like you're saying. Notice which ones are dying out. Notice which ones are not, because as you're saying that like fish are feeling the winter coming. I hope they're as excited for ice season as I am. But that's what's going to happen is, there's especially that early season where those fish are going to be clinging to those weeds, whatever's standing, whatever's green. But keep in mind that if it is those dead, gross, falling over, rotting, yucky weeds, that's not what they're looking for, right? And so when we're ice fishing and we can drill a million holes or use AquaView or whatever, and we can see that, we can find that even then, but it is way easier in open water in the boat to be doing that. So the more of that you can keep track of, the better off you'll be going into, I was going to say open water, into ice season.
Yeah. And I think, like going back to your maintenance thing, this is a good time of year not only to maintenance your boat and get that squared away, but your ice fishing stuff too, right? It's time to pull those out air them out, make sure that all of your stuff is in a row, all your line is good. Batteries are charged, which you should have charged those in July, but if you haven't yet, you still have some time to get a good charge on there before you're using them. You know, I just replaced a flighting on one of our augers just because at the end of the season last year I busted a fin off and just being silly. So I went through and replaced that. So that's ready to go. So just all those little things that you don't want to be dealing with when you're sitting here all excited for ice. Ice comes and you're like, oh, dang it. Now my auger's broken and I have to sit here and fix it. Well, it was technically broken.
I know what you mean.
You know.
Those razors, they're durable. They're not broken.
So you know, this is a good time of year for transition, right? And that goes for fish and that goes for us as well.
There you go. I guess you said transition. The other thing that helps get us into ice season is all of these different ice shows that are coming up. And I know that there's a whole bunch of them. So no matter where you are across the ice belt, let us know which of the ice shows that you are going to, because I will be honest, I don't know if we fully decided or come up or created or finalized our schedule for what we're going to. So I know St. Paul, we will be there. That's something that we do each and every year. So in our traditional spot, we'll tell you more about that as it gets closer. And I'm pretty sure that we're excited about the Wisconsin Ice Fishing Expo, but there are other shows, and we are creating that list. So let us know what you're going to this year, what you're excited about. And actually, this is a great time. I didn't even tell you or ask you about this yet. So I know, but here's something that I was going to propose is that, you know, coming up to the Wisconsin Ice Fishing Expo last year, we did some giveaways, in relation to, I don't know, the expo, just because it was coming up, because we're talking about things and people and company and stuff that are going to be there. So I guess one of the things I was going to post tomorrow is that if we were going to do giveaways, like what is on your ice fishing wish list for this year? Like, what are you looking for? What are you stocking up on? What do you need? Because honestly, those are the things that I want to be the giveaways. And I think last year we did all kinds of fun little gift packages and stuff, and some of them were cool big prizes, but not all of them, and that's fine because that's not the point. But this year, I think I want to mix in some good ones, some really good ones. So if you are, I don't know, what are you looking for? Is it suits? Is it rods? Is it storage solutions? Is it baits? Is it Widowmaker lures? Is it something that I haven't even named yet? I'm interested in whatever it is that you're interested in. So drop that in the comments because I'm going to keep track of that. But I'm also going to make a post tomorrow and ask what kind of stuff that people are looking forward to. So yeah, actually. So if you have, I guess this is your heads up, but if you have any ideas, drop that in the comments. And hopefully we'll see some of those things getting into your hands as the year goes by. Now I have hiccups. I don't know why. I must be so excited about all the ice shows and ice fishing to come. But I guess with that, with all the shows that we plan and all the people that we're going to be talking to, look for the updated information to get posted to, I was going to say our Facebook, but I think it's all of the social media outlets, because what we are going to be doing is booking them as little events, just like we do this podcast every single Thursday. And that's where we're going to be coming to you. And we are on Facebook, but we are also on YouTube, and we are also actually on LinkedIn. So no matter how you're watching this, no matter how you're enjoying this or participating, thank you for being here. And those are all the options. And hopefully you're going to get that information through all those ways.
Well, and so that kind of brings us right into the Wisconsin Ice Fishing Expo. Okay, so last year, kind of towards the middle of October, we were like, hey, let's have some of the vendors on. Let's see how excited they are. And man, we put that invitation out there, and the vendors were like so excited to talk about the show, so excited to talk about what they're bringing. And we got to the show, we got to talk with some of them, and they're like, oh, that was so much fun, blah, blah. We're doing it again this year. We've already opened up the slots. We have
signups.
We have some signups. They're filling up every day. And I think we're going to do 2 shows a week in October and November. The rest of the month, people haven't signed up for the September spots yet. So we're going to see if we can find some fillers for that. But coming up, we're going to have, well, no, but some guests, you know, like some people to fill those spots. But coming up, we're going to have a lot of shows. It's going to be a lot of vendor talk. Maybe a few booths that are just like informational booths. Last year we had Hunt Fish Travel, I think. Is that the podcast? So we had her on. We had a couple of other people on. It was super fun. So I think we're going to have a bunch of stuff coming up. We'll also be able to drop any new information about the show that we find out we can pass on to you through the show. And
can we stop and talk about this? This is such a silly thing, but this is a funny thing. You guys, for the expo, we had always in the past been, I wish I could even say these words, but I feel like I shouldn't even say these words on this podcast. We were always a crew of prizes, and we went by a different name, and you can look that up in the past, because I don't know if they took down the old videos, to be honest. I don't know how they're handling that. I don't know how that's going to go, but it turns out that Publishers Clearinghouse has a group that they call Prize Patrol that goes around and awards people when they win Publishers Clearinghouse. So wouldn't you know, we are now going to be the gift game
giveaway gang.
I'm so sorry. I should have known that, especially sharing the story. But
no, wrong type.
It's not gonna be like that. I promise you.
It might be.
But it is kind of a funny story.
Maybe Don will get us
I'm
the
just
fake
sharing it.
stereo.
No, and just sharing it here, just really funny, just fast, just because I thought that it was really silly. You know, sometimes in the ice fishing world, you know, we think about like, what a small niche thing, you know, and we wonder, like, how do we reach out to people who don't ice fish? Well, it turns out that they're listening and they just don't want to do it. So who knows? We have fun and we're here to talk about it. Hopefully you are enjoying it too. But just kind of a funny story. And we're looking forward to all the other good things that we can bring you, some behind the scenes tips. And you know what else I'm looking forward to is I hope that we're going to be able to give away some free tickets this year. So whoever is, you know, we have some loyal listeners here, or you know, maybe someone's going to win a contest or whatever that we run. I haven't even thought that far ahead, but I'm hoping that if you are hoping to go to the Ice Fishing Expo, that we can connect you with some tickets. So nobody knows that yet either.
Nobody knows that. So, but keep your eye on this podcast, because we'll have a lot of information coming out. We're going to have a lot of the vendors talking about their booth, where you can find them, what they're bringing. So that's going to be cool. And we will keep sharing our fishing stuff, you know, coming up here. I know it's one of our favorite times of the year to fish, especially leading into the ice. So maybe our second favorite, because then it's ice, fall, and then everything else.
My first favorite is ice fishing. My second favorite is open water.
Perfect. Mine too.
Anyways, I'll be honest with you. We were just kind of here to wing it tonight, to do a little bit of chatting, see what you guys are up to, hear about your fishing reports and stuff. So if you still have one, or if you're just joining us, feel free to leave that in the comments, because even if you are not watching this live and you leave a comment, that's something that we try to come back and respond to or reply to, or keep that conversation going, because we love talking fishing as well. So otherwise, I think that's what we had planned for this evening. And
I think so.
Awesome. So to everybody at home, thank you guys for joining us, and thanks for being back here for the Night Bite. I know that we have a lot more great stuff to come. Let's answer this. Yeah, a question just came in. I was going to sum up, but wait. No,
I thought we were going to get out of this show without talking about the parking.
No, that's okay. That's the thing is, well, it's an easy answer. No matter what happened last year, everything has been shifted. There's so much excitement for the expo that it has actually been moved to the EAA grounds. It is going to be a larger venue, all in one space. So last year it was separated between buildings, because that's what the space allowed for, and it was actually awesome. There are food trucks in the middle and all kinds of I was going to say food stuff. Good stuff is what I meant, but it was good food. And actually, we're not just ditching those food trucks. There's going to be a whole bunch of them back. So if you loved coffee or you loved a specific food, yeah, that's all going to be there. But the one thing that I do know is that EAA, if you've never heard of this, because I didn't actually before Wisconsin, EAA is Experimental Aircraft Association. So if you love airplanes and aircrafts, there's a whole museum. Go walk through. It's going to be great. Send your family while you're looking at the expo. Who knows, right? But EAA, because it is, they do host a worldwide event. The one thing that I can assure is that they have parking down. So I don't think they expect you to come in your plane. I do think that vehicle traffic is preferred, but it is an airport. So if you know how to navigate that, go for it. Let us know how it is for the coming years. But I do know that they're going to have navigation and ticket booths and all kinds of things that are going to run just effectively as the EAA does. So we are looking forward to that, and really looking forward to having all of the different vendors in that one area. So before we get too excited and talk about the whole rest of the expo, I know. But I think we will go back to summing it up. And because we will talk about the expo and a whole bunch of other fishing, a bunch more coming up here as we are back to these podcasts. So if you like to join in live Thursdays at 7 p.m. Otherwise, if you want to catch us later, all those different places that we talked about or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And with that, we'll be on the water this week. Hopefully you will too. And we'll see you on next week's edition of The Night Bite.
Night, everybody.